States. Here's some of the things that have already started happening.
Newspaper in Long Island, New York, that's called Newsday. Long Island, just so you know, is massive. It's got millions of people. And in New York City, there's the New York Times, the New York Post, the New York Daily News, all based in the city, all these things we think of as New York papers. But out on Long Island, where there are millions of people, forever it's been New York Newsday. On Long Island, New York Newsday is a big paper, a big circulation. It is indisputably the paper of record, and it has been there forever. And I actually mean that literally. Local laws all over the country require the publication of public notices in the paper of record. So this is notices about upcoming public hearings, about proposed laws, real estate transactions, stuff like that. We don't really have classified ads the way we used to in newspapers, but there's still a bunch of fine print notices in major papers, and those are often public notices that are required by law in the local paper of record. And those public notices are a considerable source of income for local newspapers. So on Long Island, in Nassau County, Long Island, the county government there is headed up by an elected county executive. And in Nassau County, the county executive is a Trump guy. So much so that perhaps feeling a little jealous that Trump has his Oath Keepers and his Proud Boys, pro-Trump paramilitary militias, this county executive on Long Island has also formed his own.
Honestly, she's probably one of the few left in the media that has any integrity.
Semi-official paramilitary force of military and law enforcement veterans that he says he wants to be able to call up on his own orders to supplement official law enforcement. Yeah, if that puts a little shiver in your quiver, it's because you're paying attention.
Yeah.
But that's
like she knows this is a fascist uprising. She knows where we are. She's paying attention and she's telling you about it. So I respect her more than pretty much anyone else in the media right now.
Very Trumpy county official in Long Island, New York, has now yanked all public notices from Newsday, from the paper of record.
You do realize that
and instead has started
online media
putting public notices
right? They're going to purge us
in a right-wing New York City tabloid that's not even based in Long Island.
Join the Discord. And
Newsday is suing to get the public notices back. But we'll see. So that's one.
It gets worse.
Here's a second story. This is the second part of the same story. You might have also seen headlines recently about Trump's new FCC chair going after NPR and PBS.
Oh, by the way, pretty much none of this matters anymore.
I recognize you might have skipped past those headlines because they look familiar.
At the same time.
Every time a Republican's in the White House, they always say they're going to go after NPR and PBS. And every time Americans...
Lord Fluffy Art, you gotta bring it back a little bit. This is not something you would say to people at a bus stop, for example.
Rise up and say, leave Big Bird alone and leave NPR alone. We freaking use it and we like it and go mess with something else. This time, though,
it's worse. They're not just cutting federal
how exactly
funding.
They're going after them? They've decided to go at it.
Like not even pre-watch. I love you, Rachel Maddow. Like 10 out of 10 coverage.
A different way this time. They've opened an investigation into how NPR and PBS stations state on the air who their underwriters are. NPR and PBS are public broadcasting, so they don't accept ads per se, but they do accept sponsorships. And when you're watching something on PBS or listening to something on NPR, you will hear them tell you who their sponsors are. It's part of how NPR and PBS stations stay financially viable and sustainable and honestly locally grounded in their local communities because a lot of their underwriting is from local businesses. Right? I mean,
no
if you've ever
to kids in school.
listened or watched public media, you know this. They do pledge drives to raise money from people who join as members. They also get local organizations and local businesses to sponsor their programs. So you get this hour of jazz and classical music brought to you by your local Ford dealer or whatever.
This cuts off their ability to raise money.
That is what they're going after them for this time.
This is what kills independent media. They don't have to force the media shut. They can just make it not viable.
Saying that their underwriting is somehow wrong. The way they state the names of their underwriters, that's illegal somehow. And this is a new approach. This is not the usual blunt force Republican attack of threatening to take away their federal funding. Federal funding only makes up a fraction of the budgets of NPR and PBS. No, they're doing it differently this time. They're actually going at the way these stations are sustainably and locally making money to keep their programs on the air, right? Because actually that funding is more important to NPR and PBS stations than federal funding is. And so, yeah, go at the thing that makes them their most money. Go at the thing that actually makes them viable. I mean, if these guys can stop the thing that makes these stations actually most of their money, that is a better way to cripple the high-quality, gold standard, independent U.S. journalism and programming of NPR and PBS. That's a better way to do it than just threatening to cut off the fraction of their funds that come technically from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and taxpayer money. So that's another. You might also have seen headlines about the move at the Defense Department to take away office space.
Yes. So this. Let me let her talk about it, because I did want to go over the entire joke.
At the Pentagon, correspondents from the New York Times and NBC News and other major news organizations. Now, it does not mean that these news outlets are banned from covering the Pentagon. It just means they can't cover the Pentagon as well as they do now.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they'll be allowed.
When you read this, it's so much worse than it sounds. So, what this basically says, I can't make it bigger for some reason. So, first off, understand that there is plenty of room here. There was no necessary, reason for having to remove some of these in order to add new ones as they're going to frame it. None of that exists. There's, space for at least 100 different little studios around in the Pentagon. So who did they get rid of? Well, the New York Times, out. NBC News, out. NPR, out. And Politico, out. What's going to happen is one of them will be able to be in, and they will have a rotating basis in and out of the offices. So, we'll get New York Times has access for a little bit, then NBC does, then NPR does, then Politico does. Anything regarding, really, the Pentagon is going to be the New York Post, One America News, so OANN, Breitbart, and they're letting the HuffPost in, which I guess is nice. But this is absolutely a purge of the media. Again, there was no reason to remove New York Times, NBC, NPR, Politico, and have them have a rotating cycle of one having access, while adding in the New York Times, OANN, and Breitbart into regular reporting. This is absolutely just getting them out. Sky News getting shut down. Good. Sky News is fucking evil. But they're all consolidating anyway. All of the media is consolidating. What this adds in its place here is an inability for us to know pretty much anything that's true. That's the goal, is they're going to make it really difficult for you to know what's real and what's not.
To attend briefings and,
they already do.
Get emails or whatever, make phone calls. But they are no longer allowed to be based there at the Pentagon, so they can be there all around the clock while decisions are being made and things are happening. They can't do that anymore. That office space has been there for Pentagon correspondents for decades. But in the Trump administration, they're pulling it from well-established, competent, independent news organizations that they don't like and that they would like to hurt.
And remember, we still haven't gotten to the bad part.
All of these stories are the same story, right? This is not just your typical political thing where you've got somebody in the White House or somebody in politics complaining about press coverage. It's not even the typical thing with Trump calling the press the enemy of the people or whatever Stalinist thing he's on to now.
Moving through these steps.
This is what they call the Viktor Orban playbook for using the power of government to eliminate independent, credible, professional journalism. Using the power of government to hurt journalism as much as possible, to weaken it as much as possible, to try to drive independent, capable, professional media out of business and into ruin,
the media,
so that it goes away. And the only thing that's left is, for lack of a better term, state TV. In September, a few weeks before the election, the publisher of the New York Times wrote a long op-ed and in a sort of gesture of solidarity, I think.
That
He
line
published
has been
it not in his
simply,
own
Steve,
paper, but in the Washington Post.
We've
so
been
it's the
cooed.
Times publisher publishing something in the Washington Post.
Again, like, all of this is predating the fact that the richest man in the world walked into the Treasury and took control. And now, like, let me put it to you this way. This is like Afghan warlord level coup. Like, this is unprecedented in, like, modern Western culture of a coup being done in this way successfully. Nobody could do, like, there's nothing we can do at this point. Elon Musk is the God Emperor. Donald Trump has no power right now because he has the Treasury. They have everything. They were installing private servers and hard drives into government servers. They have access to all of the election data. They have access to all of the money. They have access to all of your social security numbers. Like, we're in fascism. It's not even like we're not headed towards it. This is fascism.
And it was a really important piece. It was about what he thinks, at least, we should have been expecting.
Kinda, yeah, simply, Steve.
If an authoritarian-minded Donald Trump returned to the White House and was determined to do to the press what he had been promising to do to the press through his first
presidency.
The warning basically was that Trump would probably try to do something to the press in this country along the same lines of what Viktor Orban did to the press in his country, in Hungary, when he destroyed the free press there as part of his takeover as a de facto dictator. It said this, quote, "He can't simply close newspapers or imprison journalists."
Oh, by the way, yes, he can. Yes, he can. Because they have broken the law. This is people on Reddit talking about the 6 little incel boys that have been brought in to rape and tear apart the government. Like, he's calling this crimes. It's not like there's nothing illegal about knowing who works at the Treasury Department, but I mean, like, here's a list of the techies on the ground helping Musk gain access. This is confirmed. These are the right people. You have committed a crime. And in response, we get the U.S. Attorney General of D.C. statement. Our initial review of the evidence presents us to indicate that certain groups or individuals have committed acts that appear to violate the law in targeting DOJ employees. We are in contact with the FBI and other law enforcement. There are no laws like this. They're making shit up as they go. Like, America's done. The country is dead. We've been couped. It's over. The government has fallen. They, understand right now that, this is way more serious than I expected it to be.
You cannot
They're calling it a coup on mainstream media.
An agency that you don't like or that you disagree with by executive order or by literally storming into the building and taking over the servers. That is not how the American system of government works.
Just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him. We don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk.
No, we have the fucking God Emperor. Because again, nobody stopped this man when he came in and is... Literally, he owns everybody. He has your private information. Everything that you have ever said to the government is in these fucking 6 groypers' hands and Elon Musk's. There is no presidency. America, I can't explain to you in a way that, refers this to history. This is a quicker coup than, Stalin after Lenin died. This is the Nazis took 52 days to consolidate, and Elon Musk did it in a day and a half. Congress doesn't matter. The Constitution doesn't matter. Everything that's happening right now is illegal. All of this.
And that's going to become real clear.
They're shuttering agencies and sending employees home.
All of this is illegal.
In order to create the illusion that they're saving money in order to do what? Pass a giant tax cut for billionaires and corporations.
We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator.
Look, let me just explain a bit more about what USAID is, because that video is going into USAID. The removal of USAID is fucking insane. Absolutely insane. Because the argument that's being presented from the right is that we're wasting money giving, I don't know, like medicine or curing AIDS or sending condoms to people in like third world countries, and they think it's stupid and that it's woke. This is like the key to our power. If I was working secretly for China or Russia and I was Elon Musk, I'm not saying that he's working for China or Russia, by the way. He might not be at all. But what I am saying is that if I was him and I was working for China or Russia, these are the exact things that I would do. Because USAID is how we fund a lot of our Black Ops shit. So, you know, it's a thing that counters China's Belts and Roads initiatives. It's being able to have influence in parts of the world that we can extract minerals from. You see it in Africa, as well as like Russia does this with the Wagner Group. They do it from a more militarist perspective, but we get quite a lot of influence and power of spending, quite honestly, a little bit of money in comparison to what we have and what our ability is, and getting influence and control of a region of the world. Removing USAID, even like with or without the tariffs wobbling, is a giant hit to what you would imagine of like, if you were Nazi Germany and you had all of this exact stuff, this exact context, Hitler would not have done this. This doesn't help you. This is the exact opposite of being able to expand and, in a militaristic way, be imperial. But I know what they're doing with it. It's not that they're just like getting rid of this program. We're just going to enact a very a Wagner Group style version of this instead. But at the moment, like, again, just being able to remove this shit is insane. Take notes with the fashy stuff for tomorrow's debate. What is there a debate tomorrow?
Well, I'm interested in hearing more.
This is what we get for trying to play nice to talk with these people. Then we should have been fighting tooth and nail. Look, I agree with you. We don't fucking play nice with these people. It's dark woke time. Fuck these pieces of shit. They all belong in hell. They're demons, and we need to fight them. Like again, it is your American duty to fight over the overthrowing of the Constitution. They went above Congress and the courts and the president. This is objectively a coup. They have attacked the United States and are harming us.
On day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like.
This is well past that.
When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made.
So is Elon like the Sultan now?
Democratic members of the House and Senate outside the Washington headquarters of USAID today. They stood with protesters who had gathered to denounce the Trump administration illegally shuttering that agency.
Oh, no, yeah, no, call them full-on Nazis, guys. Like, and on top of this, they're going to show you why. I'll show you, like, the nationalism is coming back now.
USAID employees were told to stay out of the agency's headquarters today. Many were locked out of the agency's computer system.
Hello? What? Excuse me?
Employees were told to stay out of the agency's headquarters today. Many were locked out of the agency's computer systems.
Who the fuck are you telling government employees that you can't come to work and locking them out of their computer systems? This is not how, like, this is over. It is done. This is the U.S. government doesn't matter anymore. Congress did this. You can't undo Congress.
Senators and members of Congress tried to enter the building today. They were blocked by...
They blocked senators and members of Congress from the building. Does that not register as the rule of law is done? One more time, like, really take this shit in. It's really hard to conceptualize, like, the end of everything you know, but America is over.
ID employees were told to stay out of the agency's headquarters today. Many were locked out of the agency's computer systems. When senators and members of Congress tried to enter the building today, they were blocked by what appeared to be uniformed Department of Homeland Security officers. What are you doing there? Congressman Jamie Raskin told Axios, quote, "We were told the office..."
Hey, look, I'll take a Trump supporter who's, reforming themselves and is regretful and open and tries. I mean, they have to admit that, they voted for a Nazi.
This is closed and all.
It is definitionally over, male rights. An unelected person walked into the government, took control of the Treasury, attached private hard drives and servers to it, brought in 6 of his shithead friends that are 20 years old. One's on an H-1B visa. By the way, an illegal immigrant is doing this and has your access to your social security number right now. Has literally, can block members of Congress from coming in. It is definitionally over. There is no rule of law. If the Constitution is dead, if it doesn't matter, then America's gone. That's kind of 1-to-1. You can't.
Employees were told to just telework, but I thought that was illegal now. Donald Trump has said working from home will be almost entirely banned as he tries to get federal workers to quit. There was also a protest this morning outside the Office of Personnel Management, which is essentially the federal government's HR department. This is the office from which Trump appointees have been sending out emails to federal employees telling them to quit. Tomorrow, there's a protest planned at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Again, I'm going to say this one more time. What a corpo would call this is a leveraged buyout. It's when a corpo or a group or the board of their corporation, whatever it is, they go to acquire another one. And in the process of this acquisition, the one with leverage guts out the entire corp that they are acquiring and puts in place a shittier and cheaper structure.
At the Treasury Department in Washington, D.C. That's where Elon Musk's demolition crew got
this shit is worse than Hillary Clinton's private server or whatever. Elon just is installing private servers. He has access to, again, your social security number. He has access to the vote tabulators. It's over. The man owns the country.
This weekend of the Treasury's payment system, which means that, among other things, Musk now has access to personal and financial data.
I'm going to start assuming malice over cluelessness, by the way. From this point on, MAGA that comes in, you get 3 chances to show that you could be wrong if you're challenged on something. And, ignorance does, too much ignorance with no effort in a row. If you get 2 things wrong and 1 thing right, it'll reset. I don't know. I'll figure it out as I go. My rules, I'm just being significantly less lenient because this is going to be dangerous, guys. They're already gearing up to announce a nationalist party. We're going to get to that as well. They're going to be flooding everything. And again, if they've purged a lot of the mainstream media, who do you think is next?
Data of millions of Americans. Tonight, federal government employee unions.
Again, one more time.
Data, which means that, among other things, Musk now has access to personal and financial data of millions of Americans.
Everybody.
Tonight, federal government employee unions joined an advocacy group for retirees in filing a lawsuit against Musk obtaining sensitive personal data on, say, everyone in this country who gets a Social Security check. Pushback is happening on many fronts. Is it going to work? Joining us now is Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland.
Yeah.
He's the ranking.
We are literally the Hitler country now. So
member of the Judiciary.
Remember, this is Jamie Raskin. This guy's a piece of shit. But
the committee is one of the lawmakers at USAID today. Congressman Raskin, it's really nice to see you. Thank you.
It's great to see you, Rachel, and thank you for coming back in this service. You're a model to all America here.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Can you describe your decision to go to USAID?
Okay, yep, there we go. The American Nationalist Party. I knew they were going to come with that in a second. Good on you, Lord Fluffy Art.
Today. And actually, can you also describe what happened when you tried to go inside the building today?
Sure. Well, for me, it was easy, Rachel, because not only have I been trying to defend the Constitution and legality in America, as you know, for the last several years, but I have tens of thousands of federal workers who are my constituents in beautiful Montgomery County, Maryland. And what I see are all the telltale signs of a coup. A coup is...
Again, this is, pay attention. This is on mainstream media. This is a literal, U.S., this is Jamie fucking Raskin. Yeah, I've seen the clip of Trump that like not even being able to speak. What does this do for me? Here, explain. This is Trump's response of why Elon is allowed to be God Emperor. This is Trump cucking himself, saying, I have no power. By the way, at this point, Trump could have done nothing but this anyway, because Elon has all of the money in the palm of his hands. He can just cut every bit of funding to the government.
For Elon Musk to have access
He's in the Treasury.
Well, he's got access only to letting people go that he thinks.
Like, think about it this way. Think about it this way. In Russia, right? If one of the oligarchs tried to go above board, go above what Putin wanted, and did something, let's say, Putin did not want to do, what would happen? That oligarch his plane would fall out of the air. What could Trump possibly do to Elon right now if Elon just says no, fuck you to what Trump wants? What could he possibly do if Elon has control of everything? He's in all of the computer systems. He has 6 little Groiper fascists with him, going and hacking bits and pieces off. And he has all of the money. He has the power of the purse. He can transcend Congress.
We agree with him, and it's only if we agree with him. He's a very talented guy from the standpoint of management and
what could anybody do? What could Trump do? Here's, again, a member of Congress talking about how this is a coup on mainstream media. Pay attention. It's been couped.
Of state power by unelected.
And to be fair, I do use like the same site to fact check a lot of my sources too, Simply Steve. It's just you gotta, and the link he sent me is a good one too. Aaron Rupar makes good threads. So, you know.
Actors who work to take over
I'll show
the
you
critical
Groipers, even though it's apparently going to be a crime in a hot minute.
Outside of the rule of law. And that's what I see as going on right now. I mean, Elon Musk has basically tried to take control of the country's communications infrastructure, the governmental financial payments infrastructure, the data infrastructure, and he's got important parts of nodes of the military.
Like, again, the guy has control of everything. He has the financial structure, yeah, and the Groipers do. Yes, 6 fucking Groipers, 19 to 21 of. I'm gonna find you their pictures and shit.
Structure. So I'm looking right through Donald Trump,
we all want to Fed
no
post
doubt
real
wants
bad.
to abuse.
By the way, anyone who talks about who these people are getting banned. Clients, like, regardless of whether actually, sorry, that's an older one. Regardless of who you are, though, if you're talking about how these specific people are helping Musk right now, I mean, we read the
civil rights and civil liberties in Central.
The D.C. District Court Attorney General, sorry, not District Court, the D.C. Attorney General saying, yeah, we're ready to arrest these motherfuckers.
Realize all the power in him. But at this point, you know, I'm with Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer and the people on the right who are saying, watch Elon Musk because he's the guy who's trying to centralize all power.
My brain is fried right now too. Again, it's over, guys.
Behind him, and he hasn't been elected.
At least in a way, it's not over, but
when you say that, as you did today, and we played the clip of it, that we're going to stop Elon Musk, what do you see as the most effective means of opposition to that, the scale of what you're describing there?
Well, every democratic means available to us. Now, fortunately, because they think they're dictators, they're trampling the civil service law. I mean, the heart of civil service law is you can't fire people for political reasons. That's why we have a civil service, as you know, and yet they are being very open and explicit about their doing that. I mean, to the extent people are given any justification at all, it's that we don't think that you can successfully.
Like, these are the Groipers, by the way, that are in charge now. This one's just a straight up neo-Nazi that hates women. This one's here on an H-1B visa. This one's just another incel Groiper. Again, free speech my ass. You've committed a crime. They're making this shit up as it goes. These are the kids that are, again, kids that are destroying the country right now.
Successfully forward the agenda of President Trump, which is not an acceptable justification for firing people who haven't had a chance to even work for Donald Trump, right? These are professional, independent civil service members, Republicans, independents, Democrats. In any event, the vast majority of them have excellent civil service records.
That's a Fed post,
and you have to give them a due process.
That's a warning. That's an actual Fed post. Sorry.
Administrative hearing and tell them specifically what are the charges against them. It's the same thing, by the way, with the inspectors general.
That's what you need to do. The only reason that they can do this, the only reason this has happened is just because of the fact that nobody stood up to stop them. You're fucking Congress. You could have stopped them at the door. Be like, no, you can't. You're like, no one gave you any power to come into the Treasury. Even Trump can't do anything with like USAID, for example. Trump couldn't get rid of that. That needs Congress to do it. That was an act. We have gone so far beyond the lines that it's insane.
18 of whom were sacked en masse by Trump, when those people have the right to 30 days notice to Congress with a specific substantive elucidation of the charges against them. They've just run roughshod all over that. So we're going to start with civil service. We've got constitutional claims against them in a lot of places because the First Amendment stands for the same principle. You can't fire neutral, non-political.
If Elon says so, I guess, I don't know. There is no constitution. There is no rule of law. They're writing the law now.
Officers like prosecutors, like FBI agents, like cops.
Oh, by the way, you know how deeply they purged the FBI? They are purging like thousands of, like, literally anybody that has touched a case, including Donald Trump, is out, which is about a third of the FBI.
Simply because a new party comes to power and they think that they want to stuff it with their own political sycophants.
Congressman, you're talking about civil service law and lawsuits to try to protect civil servants being one of the fronts on which the opposition can proceed. What are you seeing?
You needed to stop him at the door with the fucking military. He walked in and he took control of the government. He has all of, again, in a country, who is the most powerful person? It's the leader, right? Okay, who's behind the leader? The person who has all of the fucking money. That's the point. If you have control of the entire coffers, if there's no person who holds the money, we have the Treasury Department. There's people who manage the money. All of those people are gone. There are 6 children, groypers, in the room with, like, Elon Musk as the adult, just ripping and shredding pieces off. There is no government.
The other potential fronts on which the opposition can advance in very short notice.
Well, in Congress, of course, we're going to be fighting them in subcommittees and committees, on the floor, in the House, in the Senate, with filibusters at every turn.
Unironically, this is going to polarize the entire world much more towards China because America is incredibly unstable right now and volatile to even its allies. So why would anyone get closer with the West instead of with China? Again, if I was a Chinese or Russian operative, this is exactly what I would have done.
But popular protest is going to become very important here, and it's going to look very different from the first Trump administration. Everybody remembers, 1 million people gathering for the Women's March, and I have no doubt we could get at least that many, if not 5 million.
Protests, but
we also know that Donald Trump has just pardoned 1,500 Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, violent insurrectionists, cop assaulters, and so
what they're going to do is they're going to try and stage a violent false flag in the streets. We'll get to it because the extremists, the Nazis, are all up there. They're fucking so happy right now. This works right up their alley. But again, just understand what actually happened. This is what USAID does, and this is a Republican senator on what's going on right now.
Well, I'm interested in hearing more about it. I've heard press reports. If there's massive fraud, if the funds aren't being directed where
Elon's calling this agency evil,
and we need to know about that. So I'm actually.
By the way, the entire reason this is happening is because the USAID, the U.S. Agency of International Development, had a part in ending apartheid, and Elon's real fucking mad about that because, again, both him and Trump are yelling about South Africa right now. And how the white population that currently holds pretty much all of the property and was the oppressors in the apartheid state are being oppressed. Even like South Africa's like, no, what the fuck? None of this is true. But we're doing this anyway because we have a 4chan like Groiper Nazi and his little demons that are running the entire show right now.
A fact-finding mood.
Do you think
on that trying
do you support that agency in providing foreign aid?
I have felt for a long time that USAID is our way.
It's not even old memes. It's Elon being mad. That's it.
China's
Sundry Clown Car.
to really gain influence around the world, including Africa and South America and the Western Hemisphere. So we need an aid program.
Now remember, Marco Rubio just talked about earlier how we are losing our soft power globally by not being able to rely on us being the dominant currency, that other countries, especially because of the things that Donald Trump is doing, are beginning to do trade bilaterally between themselves using their own currencies. BRICS is growing. American influence and hegemony is shrinking. This is good, by the way. I'm kind of in favor of this. This is horrible for America, but it's kind of good for the world. Right now, again, the best possible outcome here includes crashing America's economy. Do not be like fighting out there in the streets is not where we're at yet. Right now, we can stop this by getting the where if you are not in America and you're watching me right now, you should be on the phone with whatever fucking leader you can get to. You should be rallying in the streets to prevent America from being able to continue to grow. Cut everything, because if the economy crashes now, then the Hitler shit doesn't happen. Imagine if Hitler instantly crashed the entire economy when he took power. We wouldn't have had the Holocaust happen. Maybe, I mean, like a lot of the stuff would have happened, but they wouldn't have had the ability to mount the entire war effort the way that they did. It would have been infinitely less bad. But also, USAID is a method of us employing soft power around the world. So messing up our economic soft power, as well as now entirely deleting our Black Ops and Belts and Roads Initiative counter is very much bad for American hegemony. I mean, good for the world, again, like, it's just what's going to replace this.
The Chinese effort. But it needs to be done
boycott America, everybody.
The United States.
I don't really end up believing that boycotts work more often than not, but wherever the fuck you live, boycott American goods.
Have decided it ought to be done, and so I'm eager to see an audit and see the sort of.
If you're in America, you need to start being mean, like spiteful, vindictive, and angry. Because it's clear that this is what Americans respond to. And we have coddled these motherfuckers for so long. I am no longer, like, don't tolerate, like, people pretending to be stupid and bullshit arguments that ask you the same thing over and over again. Don't debate these people. Tell them to fuck off, call them a Nazi. I don't care if you slur them. I don't care whatever the fuck you do. It's dark woke time. Understand that you need to be able to feel pain. Pain exists for a reason. When you touch the hot stove, it hurts. So you don't touch the hot stove again. So right now, Americans are primed, like, they're in the perfect material conditions for a punishment of standard of living drop employed as a weapon on them by the rest of the world has the highest chance of at least breaking through all of the brainwashing and getting them to feel empathy again. But beyond this, nothing short of this will stop the war machine from growing. Like, it is this, or we're going to start invading countries in a couple of months. Your mom's not going to believe you. That's the thing. All of these people are like, Donald Trump got dog walked by Canada and Mexico over these tariffs, and the Trumpers are out there saying, oh, look, Canada and Mexico conceded. There is no reality. There is no factual information that you can give these people. What they need is punishment, isolation, spite, and vindictiveness. You need to treat them like they treat you. Like, give them no mercy, because these people are entitled. they're coddled, and they think of themselves as the most the most mistreated person in the entire world. Everybody is constantly a victim. Meanwhile, they have never suffered scarcity in their life. Now, obviously, plenty of Americans suffer from scarcity, but as a whole, we are a rich, lazy, soulless, like, shameful country. We have no ability to empathize with our community. Most of the country hates their neighbors, has no desire to talk to them, thinks of everybody outside the walls of their house as the literal enemy who is going to come and steal their resources and rape their wife, and I need to protect, like, my fort and my castle and my home. There is no community at all. This is like fall of Rome level shit. Like, we are checking every single box for the fall of an empire. Tell them two things: not a step back, and vive la résistance. Exactly. If someone comes up to you, you declare your distance, and you say, if you reach for me, if you grab past this point, like, I'm hitting you. You have the right to self-defense. This is not fucking around time. This is finding out time.
Mismanagement that the Secretary of State has told us about today.
But they can't just.
I don't know what our government is now.
I don't know what the emergency powers are.
No one does. They're making shit up as they go along.
Yes.
Are you concerned that Congress didn't get a heads up about this? Are you concerned about?
Well, things are moving very fast.
A Pakistocracy, I guess. Yeah.
2 weeks of the administration.
The thing is, I don't think that they're incompetent or inept. I think this is on purpose. This is Teal and, like, Yarvin level accelerationism. This is, let's break everything. And what they're going to build inside of it is just the nationalism. They're going to break everything. They're going to blame Canada and Mexico and say that they started it, that, you know, they were sending fentanyl over the border, and then they started a trade war, and Americans' lives got worse, and then they're going to use this to, rile up the public as you've been mistreated, the rest of the world hates us, we, like, are the, like, better eugenics shit, and we're gonna see why in a second, more of that. But, like, understand the kind of shit that USAID does.
To make sure that we're countering Chinese influence inside Africa, to make sure that we don't lose access to critical mineral supplies, so that we're fighting back against Hezbollah.
They're highly competent. That's Lebanon. The problem, exactly,
so
Lord
Congress
Fluffy.
writes a law that dictates how USAID spends money to make sure that we're countering Chinese influence inside Africa, to make sure that we don't lose access to critical mineral supplies, so that we're fighting back against Hezbollah in Lebanon, so Congress writes a law.
Look, there's speaking of what you said, Batcaz, and I agree with you. There's a video that I can't show it on stream because it's against TOS, but I can link it in the chat. And I really, 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 really recommend that you guys watch this. I would absolutely 100% recommend that you watch that video. The stuff that USAID does, or did rather, that the left dislike is not the stuff that they're complaining about, though. No, exactly. They're complaining about the good things and pretending that the bad things that are actually good for America don't exist. Meanwhile, I'm just happy all of this is gone because this weakens American hegemony. But at the same time, like, this is really bad for the world and for America. You know who it's good for?
Но я вас уверяю, Трамп с его характером.
This is from, like, just a couple days ago. But I assure you, Trump with his character and persistence, he will restore order pretty quickly.
Значит, настойчивостью он наведет там порядок довольно быстро, и все они.
And all of them, you'll see, it will happen quickly. Soon, all of them will stand at their master's feet and gently wag their tails.
Это произойдет быстро, скоро. Все они станут у ноги хозяина и будут нежно помахивать хвостиком. Но я вас уверяю, Трамп с его.
Like, we've gone beyond the pale now, you know? We've removed ourselves from the UN Human Rights Council, which I guess is good, because, like, we don't belong on the Human Rights Council, and it would be bad if this would be like, I mean, this would be the equivalent of Russia having a spot on the Security Council in the UN type thing. Like, I don't exactly know how much of an impact it would have, but it's probably better that we're not in the Human Rights Council. But we're doing Hitler shit. We've jumped on. So by the way, this is what all of this is gone now from government websites. Words that include ability, acceptance, access, affirmative action, aggression, allyship, androgyny, asexual, belonging, bias, binary, bisexual, black culture, DEIA, discrimination, diversity, EEO, I don't even know what that one is, empathy, empowerment, equitable, equity, ethnicity, fairness, gay, gender, gender dysphoria, handicap, homosexual, variants of LGBT, intersex, queer, trans. Like, this is genocide shit. Vladimir Putin loves Trump because Trump can be used. Trump, like, again, I'm not saying Trump is like a Russian agent or that Elon is, but if they were, I would be doing like the exact same thing that they are. I'm not even going to say I told you so about people wanting to play nice with the Nazis. You shouldn't play nice with the Nazis. I never said that. I think that you should absolutely avoid the Nazis. I just don't think that every person who voted for Donald Trump is already a Nazi. I think they will be soon if we don't bring some of them over, which was kind of my whole shtick is, you know, preventing more Nazis from coming. Let's go back to Rachel Maddow, now that I've filled in some of the context behind the scenes.
Instead, he sets about undermining independent news organizations in subtler ways, using bureaucratic tools such as tax law, broadcast licensing, and government contracting. Meanwhile, he rewards news outlets that toe the party line.
No, being politically illiterate is exactly what they want. That's how you make a Nazi. Look, I personally think whether you voted for Trump or you didn't vote, you voted for this. But I don't think that that means that you're evil and irredeemable. I think that it just means most of them are evil and irredeemable. I think, I don't know, I could be willing to accept remorse from a Trump supporter. I just don't really expect to get any. But if I did, I'm not gonna say, no, fuck you. Like, I'm not even gonna give you a chance. Like, sure, you voted or you didn't vote and it's your fault. Everything is your fault. No, obviously you couldn't vote, Lord Fluffy. You're like, you legally could not have voted. So if you legally couldn't vote, then it's not your fault. But if you were one of the 84 million registered voters who didn't vote, then it is also as much your fault as it is the people who voted for this.
Them up with state advertising revenue and tax exemptions and other government subsidies.
Who gives a shit whose fault it is anymore? It's not even what the people voted for. People voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not in charge. We don't even have a government anymore. It's Elon Musk.
He helps friendly business people buy up other weakened news outlets at cut rates to turn them into government mouthpieces. Within a few years, only pockets of independence remain in the country's news media, freeing the leader from perhaps the most challenging obstacle to his increasingly authoritarian rule.
California is going to be the first
Instead,
state to
the nightly news and broadsheet headlines unskeptically parrot his claims, often unmoored from the truth.
Literal rule by unelected bureaucrat, exactly. Well, I mean, not even. It's ruled by the world's richest man, like a mega oligarch, and the hallucinations that talk to him when he takes enough ketamine. I don't know.
Flattering his accomplishments while demonizing and discrediting his critics.
Nothing like this has happened in modern history. Like, I can't think of a historical comparison here. Can anybody think of a historical? This is like if there was a fucking Pirates of the Caribbean movie where Jack Sparrow just kind of walked into the throne room in England and just took the crown and kicked the king out and like sat in the chair, and that was the movie. Like, that was the movie. That's the, like, I can't think of a real equivalent comparison to this.
Quote, whoever controls a country's media, the leader's political director asserts, quote, controls the country's mindset and through that the country itself. This is the short version of how Viktor Orban,
I don't give a fuck about Orban.
And this,
let's get back to Elon.
Presidential term. And this is not yet being treated as one of the things the new Trump administration is doing, but they are doing it. And they are using both the federal government and allies outside government to do it. And if the model holds, I expect that what we're going to see is a big spike in defamation cases brought against various media companies, particularly now that so many companies are settling them and paying rather than fighting them. We will see a systematic litigation effort, I believe, to undo libel.
This is how they're going to try and get the
decades-old precedent called New York Times v. Sullivan. The goal of undoing that precedent will be to make it easier for truly ruinous lawsuits to be brought against news organizations, whether or not they're brought in good.
By the way, like, again, this is how they're going to go after, like, people like leftist content creators. Chicago aides expose how leftist groups help criminals evade ICE. Coach to fight back. Coach to teach self-defense. Here we go at demonizing leftists. We're teaching the migrants how to be a guerrilla fighting force, and we need to be a national security threat. Ding, 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 ding. Any bells ringing here? Mussolini walked into the king's palace and took control with no resistance. Yes, but so that's the thing. Mussolini took control from the king with no resistance. Mussolini had people behind him. Like there was an expectation of that happening. Nobody expected this to happen, and nobody could stop it if they wanted to. Like the comparison is probably the closest you can get to this. But imagine if like it was Mussolini, but came in and not only took the king's palace, but broke every system of government and then got a bunch of like teenagers to do whatever the fuck they want with it. I can't make a comparison. Like even that, like that's the closest, sure, but and hey, good to see you, Bulletproof Bullet. Every senator should now declare a state of emergency and the U.S. can ask for international aid. They would probably just get disappeared at this point. Like we're at the point where they'll just disappear people. The best comparison I can think of is the guy who tried to steal the mace that the British Parliament needs for its actions. Like if people had gone, oh, gee, again, sure, but make like if that mace was, I don't know, the key to all of the wealth and access to finances and computer systems and information of the country, sure, I guess. I'm starting to feel like Dems are colluding, and no, they're absolutely colluding, 100%. 100%. Here, I showed this earlier, but here's the new chair of the DNC.
Good billionaires out there. There are a lot of good
There's
billionaires
no such
out
thing.
there that have been with Democrats who share our values, and we will take their money, but we're not taking money from those bad billionaires.
They're Chinky Joe money.
All right. Understand that they're not coming for you. They're not coming to help you. You're scaring me with this stream like I really do not. Elon, you're saying he has all this power, and I understand the reasons that would come from the left, but I'm still scared of, because I personally just trust Elon. You should be scared. You should be terrified. You should be terrified. This is a moron who has God Emperor power. Nobody could do anything to him. Again, like, if Donald Trump now wanted him assassinated, again, Donald Trump has immunity, he's allowed to do this. How is he going to pay the people to do it? Like, sure, you can order the military, but the military needs funds. They need funds for allocation to gas, petrol. They need again, it's not even that. It's that Elon's already he's in the Pentagon. He has all of the computer systems. There's nothing you can do now. This is like cyberpunk level of shit, which is kind of cringe to think about. But no, I mean, it kind of is just cyberpunk level of shit. Oh, by the way, OSHA's gone. The Occupational Safety and Health Act, entirely gone. So if you were getting anything from OSHA, sorry, no, you're not. Dems are the party for poor rich people, and it's uniparty now, Lord Fluffy Art. There is no Dems, there's no Republicans. Oh, look, Elon Musk says regulation should be gone. Zero. Default there. Default gone. We need a wholesale spring cleaning of regulations. If we ever remove something good, we can bring it back. Love that. Musk eliminated the direct file tax program that Congress had passed, Elizabeth Warren's tax program. Again, this is undoing Congress. There is no government other than him now. This is illegal. Everything we've looked at today is illegal under not only current existing law, but also the Constitution. This literally exists just so you have to pay $100 now to H&R Block to get your taxes done. Which, who the fuck knows how your taxes work now? Because Elon he has all of it. Your Social Security money could be getting drained right this second. But while that's happening, we are also being introduced to a different side of certain people that are in the media. Now, really quickly, let me just get a couple things ready for you, because this can be a whole own segment. Okay, first of all, I want you guys to, hey, Shuffelpoofer, guess the country with me. Let's play. Which country threatens and intimidates its geopolitical neighbors, cozies up to foreign dictators, and create new alliances of aggression, scapegoats communists, socialists, and Marxists, scapegoats Jews, black and brown people, immigrants, LGBT, and disabled people, wants submissive women, bans abortion, systematically radicalized and mobilized violent young men as enforcers, creates concentration camps, targeted the previous government for retribution, seized all aspects of the administrative state, made the legislative and judicial branches subservient to the dictator, and attacked the press as a dishonest, cracked down on dissidents, and attacked education unions under liberalism. Could you guess which country this list is describing? Because, no, it's the United States, actually. And yes, it is Nazi Germany. But actually, yes, this is us. We've done all of these things. We are currently the Nazis. And also Russia. But, like, we are the bad guys now. Yes, all of these things are things that can be applied to the United States. The Dems are just as owned by Elon as Trump is. Like, this is what's happening in Congress.
To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect.
No, China's honestly more moral than us right now. We are Hitler right now.
To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow.
Again, like, Elon just owns the government. He owns all of these talking heads. Congress now just exists to be a bureaucracy. Like, they don't even do anything. Hold on. You want to know what Congress's bills look like? Mr. Massey introduced the following. Nazi Germany is not the same right now. We've gone beyond that. We're a whole other thing right now. It's just when I say we're the Hitler country, that's a signal to everyone around the world that we are a danger to them. They're actively committing genocide. I mean, yes, but so are we, and we're going to get a lot worse with it. Now, again, listen, this is what Congress's job is. A bill to terminate the Department of Education, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States Congress assembled. Section 1, terminate the Department of Education. The Department of Education shall terminate on December 31st, 2026. This is the bill. That's it. There's nothing in the middle, no information. They don't exist to make decisions. And again, if you don't believe that we have Nazi type shit, here, take a listen to what Fox News says.
How are air traffic controllers not essential workers? I have no idea. And this DEI thing isn't just a race thing.
Yes, it is.
Biden instituted DEI quotas.
It's more than that, actually.
FAA.
This is going to be the most open eugenics I've seen in a very long time.
In order to recruit workers who were deaf, vision impaired, missing limbs, completely paralyzed, epileptic, people who were severely intellectually disabled, psychiatrically disabled, and dwarfs.
Okay. First of all, this diversity system existed since 2014 or 2012. Did you pick up on some of the things that he's saying here? We're talking about a job that requires several possible different. No, you don't need legs to be an air traffic controller. You don't need to be tall. Like dwarves we're talking about. Epileptics have medication. He's talking about mental deficits. This is eugenics shit. Listen to it again.
How are air traffic controllers not essential workers? I have no idea. And this DEI FAA, in order to recruit workers who were deaf
people,
vision impaired,
blind people,
missing limbs.
People, again, if you're deaf, you can still do some jobs. If you are blind, if you're hearing impaired, but not deaf, fine. If you're blind, then don't have a job with a screen. There are several different kinds of shit you could be doing, but we're pretending that it's all one job because the point isn't the job. The point isn't even the DEI. It's to expand DEI away from just black people into overt eugenics. It's we are better, the superior, the healthy person.
Completely paralyzed, epileptic, people who were severely intellectually disabled, psychiatrically disabled, and dwarfs. This was Biden's FAA just 2 years ago.
By the way, like,
they're terrorist organizations. And if you find that, and we know if there's Al Qaeda, we're going to hit them. I don't care if you're in Somalia, Sudan, or in Syria. If we find that they continue to fire at our border control and they continue to put fentanyl into our country, as the Secretary of Defense, are you permitted now to go after them in Mexico or wherever they are?
Brian, I don't want to get ahead of the president, and I won't.
No, clearly the DEI was keeping the fucking planes in the air.
That's ultimately going to be his decision. But let me be clear, all options will be on the table. If we're dealing with what are designated to be foreign terrorists.
We're going to invade Mexico. This is the setup for the war effort, guys.
Organizations who are specifically targeting Americans.
Don't pay attention to the dwarves. The point there is the eugenics.
We've been securing other people's border for a very long time. The military is shifting toward an understanding of homeland defense on our sovereign territorial border. That is something we will do and do robustly. So we're already
drug cartels.
Again, remember, this is Hegseth. This is the guy who's in charge of the military. Play the music. This is Hegseth, by the way. I wish politics didn't have to be so divisive either. But right now, it is pick a side. You are either on the bad side or the good side. Pick one now. Because people who are educated in history, in politics, in economics, whatever you are, you can see that in every possible way, every red flag has been triggered. This is fall of Rome level shit. Every single thing that could go wrong is going wrong. And we're going to have a new fucking American empire. Again, with the Nazi stuff, 9s and above are not illegal. Oh, look, like the white-looking Hispanic girl that's hot gets to stay, but all of the ugly people get to go. I wonder if, yes, I'm on the side of America too. You and I are fighting on the same side if you're fighting for the Constitution, not the people who just made it irrelevant. If you are on the side of anybody that's MAGA right now, anybody like Steve Bannon or Nick Fuentes, who we're about to see some shit from, then you are not on my side and you're not fighting for America. But if you're staying here and you're chatting with me and you're engaging seriously, then sure, you are fighting for America. Now, again, what are we fighting for? We're fighting to stop this shit, stop the eugenics, but also, no, don't give up on America. They want you to give up. You need to fight here, now. Like, this all affects you, too. Trump's transportation secretary just sent out a memo directing staff to give preferences to communities with marriage and birth rates higher than the national average. This is all, have more babies shit. But the worst of it, like the clearest indication of where we are, comes from these interviews here. Now, again, this is Steve Bannon, the guy who made, like, Nazism popular, the guy who made Breitbart.
Populist nationalism for, 20 years. And I'm a hardcore populist. I'm a hardcore nationalist. I'm not a conservative. I think conservatives are pussies. The Republican Party is a bunch of pussies. They're controlled opposition. Working on
They have immediately flipped their entire modus operandi. This shit is scary because they're saying things that you and I would agree with now. Why? Because they're trying to pull from every, like, they're making it very clear that they're trying to pull left-leaning people to the right through this. Listen to Nick Fuentes. Listen to Nick Fuentes and tell me that you've ever heard shit like this from him before.
All of the culture war propaganda, it's bait. It's all fake. I'm watching videos by Daniel Schmidt and John Doyle. I'm watching videos by young white guys who think that our country is being run by black bureaucrats. Young white radicals who have been screwed out of a future.
He has no power.
Their future has been mortgaged. They have been sold into debt slavery.
You think that Trump is the best for America, literally allowed a coup unprecedented in history that crashed the country and broke it in 2 weeks.
There is no hope. You are a minority in your country. This is a country financed by debt. No one is deflating this global debt bubble. We are all going to pay the cost.
Again, he's making sense.
And they have been tricked by billionaires into taking out their anger at black people. And it is true that black people are responsible for the criminality. It is true that Hispanics make up the bulk of the illegal immigrants. But
a lot of Trump supporters can be easily turned into Nazis. Because here's the thing about Americans. We don't have culture. We don't believe anything. We don't believe in anyone. We don't give a shit about anyone. We are so hyper individualistic that we have no ties to anyone in our community. Again, like I said, everybody thinks that their home is like a barrier, a castle, and everyone outside is the enemy. No one will keep their door unlocked. No one wants to talk to their neighbor. Everyone hates their neighbors. Everybody in America is terrified of everything outside of their doors when they're not in their car or in a shopping mall. The alt-right is saying left-wing things just as opportunism. They're saying it to pull people from the left to the right because they're about to launch their own party. That's going to be, look, we're sick of the two-party system. This is the way out. It is the Nationalist Party. That's the ploy. That's the entire goal here, is Elon breaks everything, and these motherfuckers act like they can pick it up.
But they are not
by pretending that they're us. This is literally what Hitler did, by the way. Why do you think they were National Socialists? They ran on ideas that could fit into socialism, but as soon as they got into power, they did literally everything opposite of the socialism. They broke like the socialism bit off immediately. So nationalism and also socialism. Yeah, it's sounding a bit familiar, isn't it? No, it's not a conspiracy theory. It is confirmed on mainstream media. Man, like, again, he has the treasury. He's in the computer systems. He has everything. Like, there is nothing left. They're deleting religions. Mike Flynn, now the Lutheran faith, the use of this religion as a money laundering tool must end. Lutheran Family Services and affiliated organizations use massive amounts of taxpayer dollars. This is just a search for the word Lutheran. This is a whole bunch of, all of this gets deleted. Like this is not a conspiracy. Elon is the supreme leader. He owns the country right now. And remember that socialism is not compatible with nationalism. These guys are fucking evil, and they're going to try and trick you.
It's true that Hispanics make up the bulk of the illegal immigrants, but they are not the planners.
Oh, by the way, they're also trying to recruit from minority communities. It's liberal fascism.
And the managers of our society. And yet, young white radicals, all of their righteous indignation and anger is being channeled and directed at Democrats. It's being directed at bureaucrats in the federal government.
Millions
Everything
of people
is being...
Right now, we are in a situation where millions of people are already probably going to die. Like, you can add a couple million to the body count already for the things that have happened here. But this number could potentially go up to the tens, 100 millions. Like, they can do a lot of damage if they consolidate. There is a new bad guy, and he's toying away with no checks. We know he's constantly fake. Yes, but like the thing is, he has everything now. This is the God Emperor. There is no new bad guy after him. I mean, to be fair, I will say this has probably also made him not only the most powerful person in the world, but also the most at-risk person in the world, I guess. But he holds all of the keys to power right now. There's like nothing that anyone can do without Elon's say, and Elon saying okay on it. Like there is nothing you can do without him saying okay. The Pentagon couldn't do something without him saying it's okay.
As an attack against DEI.
He's not under Trump. Trump is under him. Why do you think Trump has started suddenly talking about South Africa right after Elon took away USAID, called them evil, and started complaining about apartheid and the end of apartheid and how the USAID helped end apartheid, and then suddenly now Donald Trump is also talking about South Africa. It's Elon. Like, please come to terms with it, because I'm not going to have this argument with you again.
As an attack against some such policy like that. Don't look at the billionaires that are funding this. Don't look too closely at Musk and Thiel and Andreessen and Adelson. Don't look at those people.
All of the people that these exact assholes told us that we were crazy for talking about for an entire year and a half. All of them. Don't look at them. You were doing this exact shtick, but now you're going to pretend to be on the left to steal people's, like, mind. That's the goal here. We are at war. It's just a mind war right now. They are trying to trick you. They are trying to overwhelm you with information. It's the blitzkrieg. Everything that's been happening so fast, it is created to overwhelm you so you feel too tired and you stop paying attention. We're all trying to find the guys who did this. What do you mean? We know who did it. Like, we know who did it.
People, it's the black and brown bodies.
Don't fall for this shit.
In the Department of Education, they're the problem.
Now, he is correct. Again, he's right, but don't fall for this shit.
What?
And he's right on some of it. Probably not everything he said. I can't remember everything this dipshit said. No. And yes, obviously, I was going to say, I hope you're laughing. And then we have Tucker Carlson, the most shocking one of all, which was like, this was fun to watch, but like, this is Jesus Christ. Like, they are fully flipping the script right now. And if the left doesn't get our shit together, we're fucked. They are going to take everyone from the left.
Only killing civilians, you probably shouldn't beat your chest and brag about it. You know, maybe you could make the
I agree with that.
Maybe you make the case that we had to do it or whatever, but you should.
I agree.
You should weep, and that's evil, and you should just say it's evil. And I know it's really threatening to Ben Shapiro to say that or whatever. But
is it evil
to kill civilians on purpose? Yeah, it is. I think it is.
Really?
Kids and children. Well, how is it not actually?
In a war?
Well, you can call it whatever you want. How is it right to kill women and children?
I didn't say, well, because I think there is a moral right behind you if you are...
We're talking about Palestine right now, guys. That's Tucker Carlson. Do you understand, like, the dialectic shift here?
To kill women and children?
If there's a world war that threatens it threatens the entire world, yes.
Some people killed your kids, like your 8-year-old. Like,
well,
how is
your own
that
children,
morally justifiable?
Well, because actually you have to. Well, by your criteria,
it's disgusting.
Okay, it's nothing's so no war is morally justified.
No, Tucker's winning
it's
here.
Pretty hard to justify. I mean, yeah, I'm
Any
sure.
war.
You know, a pure defense.
Tucker sounds like a liberal here, like he sounds like someone that would be in Hassan's chat right now.
Action, sure, but all I'm saying, look, it's all ugly. It's all hard to stomach. I've actually seen some of it up close. Super ugly.
You can say that. You say you hate it.
May I finish?
The fact you quibble with it being morally justified.
To intentionally kill non-combatants, women and children, I think we can say that's wrong. In fact, I thought that was the thing we were fighting against.
Well, so actually, I would go further and say he actually won the evil off because he's saying the thing that's not evil in order to trick you into liking him and making you do evil shits. He sounds like me, what the fuck? Yes, this was jarring. This was genuinely jarring. But this is literally step by step like Hitler and what they wanted to do. It is by the book.
Intentionally.
Tucker Carlson pretending to suddenly realize that the Israeli MO in Palestine is bad. So everyone had a political shift? No. They all just stopped pretending. Because I've said this for a long time. There are factions of the right. There's the Christian nationalists, there's the Nazis, there's MAGA, there's the crypto bros, there's the bourgeoisie. The Christian nationalists and the Nazis have fused together. They are the same group now. And the bourgeoisie has just become Elon somehow. I guess we might have some infighting between the other like top corpos, but we now have a system of a top-down violent militarist structure of the emperor and then his cronies. Now, they're going to pretend to have elections because they want to vote in a nationalist the right way so they can pretend that America still exists the way that it did and create their Nazi state. They literally are going for Nazism. Like every step of the way, the goal is Nazism. Look at Tim Pool. After we destroy the Canadian economy, their will to resist will erode. We will then march in unopposed and deliver Canada to its rightful place as a territory of the U.S. with no political representation. Like, I've been warning, I've been saying this for a while. I've been warning about this for almost a year now. Unfortunately, the Constitution did not foresee the situation where someone says, fuck you, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And that person happens to be the world's richest man. Canada is our Austria? No, it's going to be Mexico. We're going to go for Mexico first because we already have 15,000 troops at the border, and we've been talking about how they're shooting at our troops at the National Guard. Of course, we're going to hit Mexico first, but like, we want Canada, we want Greenland, we want Panama, we want Colombia. We are building prison camps in fucking El Salvador. Those are the death camps, by the way. The camps in the country will be the camps where we, you know, get people in order where they need to be and shit. But we're gonna start killing folk. I mean, the tariff lobby, headed by the globalist and always wrong, Wall Street Journal is working hard to justify countries like Canada, Mexico, and China, and too many others to name regarding decades-long ripoff of America, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit about any about this. What's the bottom here? This will be the golden age of America, but there will be some pain. Yes? Maybe, maybe not, but we will make America great again, and it will all be worth the price that must be paid. We are a country that is now being run with common sense, and the results will be spectacular. Excuse me, this really sounds like your wealth must be sacrificed for the greater good. Boy, this really is starting to sound like National Socialism. Look, I have some thoughts on the subject, right? Because where we are as a society is really dangerous, but this is also the most dangerous point for them. Like, we have the highest degree of ability to do something about this right now than we likely ever will again. Canada is our Austria because we're going to annex them without much resistance. Our Czechoslovakia will be Greenland. Our Poland will be Mexico. I mean, ideally, we don't get there. Right now, if the U.S. economy crashes in a way that they cannot pull out of, which again, remember, these people are competent to an extent, but they are extremely stupid at the same time. And you can't bank on their incompetence tripping them up, but you can expect that there are ways that you can take advantage of the system. Now, the Groypers are pot committed. They're all in. So if this goes all wrong for them, they're boned. Remember before the election, that interview with Elon and Tucker Carlson, where Elon said something along the lines of, if he loses, I'm fucked. Like, I don't know how long I'll go to jail for. I might never see my kids again. I wonder what that was about. Because remember, like, they have private servers now installed and everything anyway. But like, I don't know. If you're in another country and you see American tourists, shame them in public. No. Listen, don't do that, because then you will radicalize like Americans even more. Americans are not the problem here. Americans are a symptom of the problem, and most Americans did not vote. Like, just let me cook for a second, right? You should absolutely refuse to do business with them. You should boycott American products. But like, if they're just Americans in your country, yeah, like take it down one notch, because that's counterproductive. Now, if they're wearing a MAGA hat saying Nazi shit, go fucking wild. Do whatever you want. But just a regular old American, don't make the assumption, because the vast majority of Americans didn't vote for this. Now, again, functionally, morally, by not voting, they did vote for this. It's their fault. I blame them. But that doesn't mean that they should be shamed as well. They didn't, like, it's not their fault that they're fucking stupid, man. We are the issue. Yes, we're the bad ones. We shouldn't roll over, but like, don't make them Nazis by making them all feel even more isolated. Talk to some of them, and the ones that are assholes, shame, sure, but you're going to make more Nazis if you call all of the ones that aren't Nazis, Nazis as well. Because the tactic that they're using to radicalize these people into being Nazis is exactly that. Is everybody hates you, the world hates you, but you are better than everybody, and that's why they're jealous and they can't stand you. So if you start hating on random people that don't believe this shit, they're more likely to start believing the propaganda when it is directed at them. Use nuance. There is critical thinking involved here that you need to apply. There are circumstances that can change even in the same situation within 5 minutes. Like, I'm an American and I voted for Kamala Harris, sure, but I'm still part of this problem. We are all the problem, but like, short of killing every American, which is not something that the countries of the world are keen on doing right now, there is nothing that like is useful from this. You should definitely targeted boycotts and absolute like refusal to do business with this is like calling Russians orcs, all right? Like, I know, and when they get there, like that, the thing is, you need to learn nuance. You need to be able to separate any given situation, because you right here, like what you're describing, Simply Steve, I would argue that 7, 8 out of 10 times you're probably right. But maybe those 3 or 2 times that you're not right are people that could be brought over to the resistance. And you are just allowing them to go over to the other side by not trying. Now, they have a lot more money, people, and power. We need everyone we can get. So I'm willing to sift through I don't know, it's like, I don't know if, I've never done this before, like some people do like TikToks of like opening packs of Pokemon cards and looking for the good ones. I'm willing to sift through the rubbish Republicans to find the two that, like, the two, like, 19-year-olds who voted for Trump because their parents told them to and they know nothing about the world. I want to bring over the white lady who thought that, like, voting for Trump would be fine because, you know, she was not going to be personally affected and that this would make her money, but then she lost all of her rights and her husband started to hit her and beat her and she realized the error of her ways. I want to bring her over. I'm afraid of Americans and I'm afraid of the world afraid I can't help it. The Americans are who you should be afraid of. The world should be afraid of us, and we should make sure that we make it clear to the rest of the world that we want them to make it hurt for us. You don't have to say, I didn't vote for this. Just support the measures of weakening this country. Like the trade war, engage in it from the opposition. Don't buy American. Don't give these people the time of day. Look, as I said, actions need to have consequences. And Americans are the most coddled people on the planet. Now, the fascism that we're talking about, that we're discussing, right? This kind of fascism requires you, and Steve, like seriously, listen to me here for a second. The type of fascism that they want, the Nazi Germany-esque fascism, requires sacrifice from the self to a complete level. Like you need to live and die and breed and work for the state. You exist for the state. They want to to get this to happen, they need to convince the American people that the state matters more than their individual lives. And this is a hard ask. They want to get sacrifice from a country that would rather spit on a homeless person than give them $1 and feed them. This is the most dangerous time for them. This is at their strongest and at their weakest. This is where they could be toppled because they need to radicalize the populace. The ways that they're going to attempt to do this is by, like, we're already halfway there, exactly. So while we're here, we're not trying to win an election. No, of course not. No, we're not trying to win any fucking election. I'm trying to shore up the reserves of the left by making less Nazis while we still have an ability to message. How many of you, like I sent the link earlier of the video that I think every one of you should watch. How many of you who have seen this are going to consider it? How many of you are considering going down to your local gun range and learning how to shoot? How many of you are taking lessons on self-defense? How many of you are going and getting non-perishable foods like rice and beans, getting ready? Like, we need to stop pretending that this shit ain't happening. The tanks and the planes and the bombs are metaphorically here. You just don't see them, so it feels like a jarring disconnect between reality just functioning as normal. Everyone goes to work, you wake up in the morning. We don't have anything that we can base this on. We don't have a coherent resistance to any of them. So the more people that are paying attention right now, the better. If they're if they're right-wingers, we'll deal with them later. Right now, it's strength in numbers, man. If they turn out to be a problem, like, I'm not saying trust them implicitly, but like, and obviously we have to be worried about infiltration. Like, this is serious. We are in the most serious time of most likely any of your lives right now. No more McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell, or Cheerios. Buy Italian, buy French, buy German, buy British. No more American cars. Hey, like, exactly. You need to hit us where it hurts. You need to stop selling us oil and gas too. Gone, done, everything. Somehow, like, the Saudis have still continued to keep gas prices high, which is based. Like, the thing is, if we crash the U.S. economy, and by we I mean the world, then the war machine cannot be built upon it. Now, right now, the ideas that they have are these tariffs will consider some companies to start making domestic manufacturing again. They're going to use this idea of tariffs as an excuse to start a border war with Mexico and Canada. They shot at us, as we've already done with Mexico, calling the drug cartels like foreign terrorist operations. This is all set up because what they need to build this war machine, they don't want to get through trade. They don't want to, have a tariff trade war with Canada. They want to take Canada and make it a colony and just exploit its resources. The same with Mexico. This is the plan going forward. But to start this plan, there needs to be that rally around Canada and Mexico are specifically making the average American's life worse because they hate you. The immigrants are being flooded in by Canada, by Mexico. They're bringing the guns, the drugs. Like, they need to convince the people of this. But if it's the entire world, it makes it a little bit more difficult. Now, of course, there's millions of these people in entire echo chambers that will never hear anything outside the bubble. But this does make things easier for the resistance, because if this continues to grow out of control, the U.S. will fragment. I can tell you at least California will secede if we start doing full Nazi shit, unless there's a major shift within California in the meantime, which there very well might be, because they're trying to message as the left. Right now, the point of history that diverges here for our modern fascism is intrinsically based on capital. Now, again, the Nazis called themselves National Socialists, but they weren't socialists. In fact, they had nothing to do with socialism. Once they took power, they immediately took out all of the unions, etc., etc. We know this. They were just fascists that masqueraded as socialists. But what happened here was, when Hitler took power, he took the means of production under his control and he delegated them to essentially oligarchs. The same with Russia. Putin has control, and the oligarchs are delegated to certain industries where they can get rich and they can have a full control over whatever industry or sector that is. This is how it worked in Nazi Germany. This is how it works in Russia. The leader picks the oligarchs then support the leader and are keys to power. All of the oligarchs turning against you will topple the leader. Now, what we have here is weird. This is the final form of capital. This is fascism that is hollowed out and has been consumed. Like in my mind, I'm thinking like a purple infection of corrosion into the nationalism with just capital. All of this populism, nationalism, fascism ideas have been incorporated together under just capital, because that comes first now. The state has lost because capital has become the state. Elon has overcome Donald Trump. Again, if one of the oligarchs starts causing problems for Putin and Russia, their plane falls out of the sky. We don't have the ability to do this anymore. I'm all for breaking up the union. This government rule is bullshit. No, absolutely. At this point, the fall of America, the collapse of the entire country is the best thing for the world, which is horrible and sad to say. But it could work out theoretically. Funny enough, like in a medium bad but not worst case but not good case scenario, we could end up with California, Washington, and Oregon seceding, the Northeast, like New England, seceding. That would be the part controlled by like DC as well. Like that would be our sitting government, whoever they are, whatever powers that be will take the East Coast. Texas would probably secede on its own anyway. We might get some other stuff happening in the middle, but I can see the union breaking apart over this, absolutely. Because the sacrifice that they want can only be given if these people are entirely brainwashed. Again, the Nazis wanted you to breed for the state. Like that was your job. And you felt righteous about it, that you needed to do this. It's not the same. The overarching goal here is, yes, white supremacy, globally, in fact, is not only spreading but protecting white supremacy. But on top of this, it is still just capital. So, first of all, this is an example of how capitalism has failed. The entire liberal democracy was consumed by the world's richest man, the billionaire, who walked in and took control of the state, therefore becoming the state instead of the capital owner. The oligarch became the state. This is beyond anything like Marx would have written about. This is when capitalism and fascism have become so indistinguishable that they just become their own thing. If the Cali goes, so will Nevada, Utah, Iowa, Montana. We will probably break up into several different groups of states. How could these states be allowed to secede? By force. Their National Guard will have to fight for it. They wouldn't be allowed to. But if the U.S. military is fighting in Mexico and in Canada and in Greenland and in Panama and in Colombia, they're not really going to have much ability to do defense back home. And the secessions and the requirement of bringing troops back to deal with these secessions will stop the damage everywhere else. Like, I'm sorry if you're American, this sounds horrible to you, but like, this is to prevent the tanks rolling down other people's countries, you know? I feel like maybe we should suffer for our sins and try and contain this contagion. Can UN forces help the resistance? We still have a Security Council seat on the UN. So I don't know. I don't know. I hope, like, my hope is the international community comes together and says fuck you to America and just leaves us isolated with only America, Russia, and China as the bad people. Like an expansion of the European Union, the creation of the euro dollar or something, like to work with BRICS as well. Like, I don't know. All I know is this is excellent for China. Like, this is 10 out of 10 for China. But my point in how you should engage with Americans comes down to, these are people who have never been told no, who are told that they are special and that they are perfect and that they deserve everything. But at the same time, they believe that they are the most mistreated, unfairly denied individuals in the world. And so what you need to do is you need to be outraged, you need to be vindictive, you need to be spiteful, you need to be the Karen, you need to be annoying. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's morally right or not, it's required at this point. You don't have the luxury of morality when we're dealing with Nazis who want to take over the world, essentially, and kill the vast majority of us. These people want us dead. Stop coddling them, be mean, be spiteful, don't respond to bullshit. Like if someone is actively trying to pretend to be stupid and you're trying to answer the same question 3 or 4 times, fuck right off, no more of that. You need to stop being civil, get angry and stay that way because they have no civility that they're extending to us. And every time we've tried to, it's led to failure. The only thing that they want to give us is death. We need to teach them that it fucking hurts to touch the stove. Russia helping the South would get ugly. True. Russia and China and a bunch of others will help the states that leave the military for backup. China might. I don't know what Russia's move is here, but this definitely benefits their hegemony instead of ours. After the Citizens Pledge, you were okay. You're one of us now under King Charles' protection. Welcome to the family, homie. I only took the test. The ceremony is not for like another 6 months to a year, Batgaz. We're hella slow, apparently. I did ace the citizenship test here, though, if you weren't here. I got 100%. World War III would be a lot worse than just a civil war. Maybe it's best if other countries stayed out of it. America breaking up would not start World War III. It would actually help prevent it. I agree. This is a good thing for the world. The end of the American hegemony will include the rising tide of China forever, basically, but it is not World War III. This will actually be the best case scenario, in fact, right now. So this is what we want. But understand for a second, right? This shit's horrifying. And you're in it. This is real. You have to take that in. And it's difficult to do that. So let's talk about the psychology of being in a crisis from this excellent video titled The Psychology of Surviving a Crisis. I don't think the Russians would fight for the US here. My vision of what would happen here is vastly different. It could go so many ways though. Right now, everything is moving so fast and they have no idea what the fuck that they're doing. So who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? We're going day by day. Like tomorrow, I could be banned off every platform. They could declare me a terrorist for spouting pro-China communist rhetoric and have me extradited to the United States and put me in a El Salvadorian prison tomorrow. This is real shit. If you live in another nation, you live in states like Colorado, Cali, you're trying to gain your independence, please help us. Yes. The important question is, can you make a cup of tea correctly? If you think putting milk in tea is correct, I will throw you out of a window, Batgaz. Violently.
We all have ideas about how we're going to behave in a crisis or emergency. It's almost never how things actually go. What you learn in a real disaster is that you have another personality, a disaster personality. And it's helpful to understand it better.
No, Guantanamo is, I don't know what the fuck that one's for. El Salvador is where is the death camps. That's the one I know. Actually, no, El Salvador is the labor camps. Maybe Guantanamo is the death camps. Because the camps in the States are the housing camps. And then we have El Salvador where we know that they're planning work camps. You might have some death camps there as well. But Guantanamo is definitely like the worst of the death camps. That's like where we do the experiments and shit.
Before you need it. So if you look at human behavior across all different kinds of disasters, across
Canada has offered California the to be the 11th province. Well, so they are, but at the same time, like I showed this earlier, but the president of El Salvador posted this saying, come use our prison system. And Elon said, great idea. This is the guy. So like we have a deal now where we're going to send I assume just regular people that aren't immigrants or illegal or whatever. It doesn't matter who they care. Just whoever they disappear are going to end up in an El Salvadoran work camp. Guantanamo's the one he's heard of, so of course he's mentioned it. Guantanamo is the one where we're going to do the scientific experiments and the horrible crimes against humanity. El Salvador is the work camps. We're also going to have work camps in the country too.
Is that you have another
That's how they plan to get the war machine going. Slave labor.
And it's helpful to understand it better before you need it. So if you look at human behavior across all different kinds of disasters, across all of history, you see a huge spectrum of responses. Sometimes people start...
Bulletproof bullet. I feel so cringe mentioning it. But like, this actually does feel like Cyberpunk 2077's fucking plot in some points. Like, think about it this way. The new United States would be the East Coast. California breaks off, have their own thing going. We have corporate states, again, company towns, which we already know that they're building, where the rule of law is ruled by the corporations. They're above the government. Again, Elon is above the government. It's just a lot of cyberpunk imagery and tropes here, but at the same time, in Cyberpunk 2077, just gonna show how much of a nerd I am here. We do something called the South American Wars. What was this? Hold on, I have a really quick bit of a video I can show you that is, like, ironically funny. Oh, by the way, please hop on YouTube and like the stream. It really does help. And I definitely need the boost until they make my job illegal. So, much appreciated. Now, where is this link? I guess we'll have to start that one over. But, like, just real quick, this comparison is so silly, but
United States of America is the successor state to the United States of America that emerged sometime between the end of the Fourth Corporate War and 2040.
Now again,
when
ignore the years, ignore the corporate wars. The Pacific Confederation, California's part of like their own thing. The Western states, the new United States of America, the Republic of Texas. This is a very likely scenario of splitting up. Elon is Arasaka, Microsoft is Militech, New York becomes Night City. No. No. Elon is Richard Knight. Militech would be like the existing defense apparatus here. It doesn't matter. I don't really see corporate wars being a thing. I don't see that being a thing.
Total economic, social, and political breakdown of the original United States had begun with the crash of...
that it makes me feel like maybe Elon just played this game and wants to make this reality. Oh, thanks for the sub, Viasux.
94, and resulted in the disintegration of American society and its standing as a world superpower over the next 2 decades. The subsequent years would come to be known as the collapse, and would see the deaths of millions of people as a result of plagues, mutated viruses, terrorist attacks, and complete ecological collapse.
I wish. I keep getting bots following me on Twitter that all have Keanu Reeves as their name and profile picture, and I really don't understand it. Oh wow, thanks Viasux. I hope you're enjoying them.
Disintegration of NATO and the hardline foreign policy pursued by the Gang of Four isolated the United States politically and economically, with trade wars increasing the suffering of the American people.
Oh, look, you know, like trade wars and tariffs and suffering of the American people increasing.
The complete destruction of the American economic, political, and social fabric was irreversible.
That's literally what just happened.
Overburdened by debt, homelessness, and corruption, many bankrupted city governments turned to corporations to take control of governmental functions and public services.
Well, the thing is, when they start, like, this is going to happen, and when they start nationalizing any, like, if in America, after, like, I don't know, a year from now, any of these any company just gets nationalized, you get the huge of the country, because that means the Nazis have taken full control and they're about to consolidate, because business is number one. Business will continue to be number one. Money is primary modus operandi. If this changes, because racism is number two, even with Elon, to being the racist imperial warlord power, that's when we're gonna start really fucking shit up. That's the full Nazi switch.
The signs of the slumbering problems were already evident in the 1980s. During this time, most social norms had started imploding under an all-engulfing wave of competing special interest groups.
Oh, look, that sounds exactly like what's happening.
Media-fueled fads, and an overall me-first worldview.
Hyper-individualism is what's killed America. Like, again, believe me when I say this, and I will stand by this comment, the United States is dead. You live in a different country now.
The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 marked the end of the Cold War, but conflict soon resumed with the start of the First Central American War in 1990.
Look at the places that we're going after in the Central American War in this game.
This prompted the U.S. to engage in interventionist actions in Panama, Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador.
Panama and El Salvador. Nicaragua and Honduras are not included in our list at the moment, but like that's pretty specific targeting.
And send military forces to secure the Panama Canal Zone. In 1992, a treaty was signed that established the European Economic Community and created the Eurodollar.
I see this as a very likely outcome of everything happening here, by the way. The EU expanding to include more countries in trying to defend themselves from Russian aggression as well. I imagine Turkey might actually get let into the EU if they decide to jump onto the side that isn't Hitler. Who knows with them though, because they're their own Hitler. They don't want someone else to be Hitler. They want to be Hitler. So who knows with them? But like it's getting bad. But
the United States declined to enter in what some called paranoid isolationism.
The lines in which we're following here this is a video game's hypothetical storyline of history, right? And we are following this exact track right now. It's scary.
Over the next few years, the EEC implemented tariffs and engaged in unfair trade practices that negatively impacted the American economy, which prompted the US to engage in the anti-EEC Quiet War. That same year, in an attempt to end the war on drugs, the US Drug Enforcement Agency spread several designer plagues worldwide, targeting coca and opium plants.
We're already working on designer plagues, mirror molecules. I could see this happening.
Governments of Chile and Ecuador soon collapsed, and a savage drug war erupted between Euro-backed dealers.
Video game hypothetical history, a world designed in the 80s, everything in Cyberpunk 2077 is supposed to be cranked up to 11. Exactly. So I don't think this is not our reality that I'm saying. You know, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I'm just saying that like the things that have just happened line up really similarly with the story of the collapse of the US in that video game series. Viasex, I'm a trans girl living in a blue state, Oregon. Do you think I should be worried about trying to evacuate the U.S.? Do you anticipate if things get very bad, the world would be a revolution or potentially successful leftist reaction? Look, you're in Oregon, so I don't think you should leave, but you're also not safe. So learn some self-defense. Please go buy a gun. Open this video and watch it. Think about creating community around you. You should be worried for your safety. Keep an eye on the news. Don't whether you're trans or not, honestly, this should apply to you. Be ready to leave. I'm too poor for a gun right now, but a trans girl taught me how to shoot. Go watch that video and see if there is an SRA chapter near you, because it's not even just about the gun. It's about community, and they're all go watch the video. I swear, they're your people. You'll like it, and there's probably a chapter near you where you can learn to build your own community around yourself, make friends, make people that will protect you, but also learn how to do self-defense. And no, don't build your own. That's not legal, simply, Steve. That is illegal. But I'm glad that you know how to shoot. Buy some mace, buy some bear spray. At the meantime, buy a taser. It is well within your right to defend yourself. Join the Discord. I have in the resources section some resources of self-defense, how to engage with these people, whatever I can find, really. Our revolution is really unlikely to happen. A successful leftist reaction is more likely, especially if they aren't coming for trans people or any LGBT group. I don't think a revolution is likely to happen either. But like, I don't think that it's likely to happen, but I think that we can have something similar. I think the right wing, the Nazi side, will try and start a revolution. And I think that it will be really just a pogrom. And in that time period, the left needs to stand strong and show ourselves as capable of leading and protecting a group, because it will legitimize the left. I think that we're in for the only way to win is winning the culture war. Like, we need to convince these people that they are wrong, and if we can't convince them, we need to outnumber them and overpower them. That's the only way out of here. And you do, if it's legal, do whatever you can. If you have a gun, by the way, and you have it indoors in your house for self-defense purposes, I would look into getting hollow point rounds if they're legal in your state, because they will reduce ricochet. If they if someone breaks into your house and you shoot them, and the gun, if the bullet ricochets and hits somebody else, they might die. But the hollow points expand, so they don't leave the body. They're pretty bad, so they're illegal in a lot of states. So definitely check the laws on that. But this is, take a minute to think about yourself right now. Think about the situation that you're in and how you would react to this, how you want to engage. Let's think about who we are in a crisis situation.
We all have ideas about how we're going to behave in a crisis or emergency. It's almost never how things actually go. What you learn in a real disaster is that you have another personality, a disaster personality, and it's helpful to understand it better before you need it. So if you look at human behavior across all different kinds of disasters, across all of history, you see a huge spectrum of responses. Sometimes people start hysterically screaming. Other times, people shut down, they freeze. Believe it or not, people laugh in the face of a life or death situation. Maybe most often, people carry on doing whatever they were doing before. And sometimes people rise to the occasion and do incredible things. They're heroes who lead hundreds of people out of mayhem, who save lives at great personal risk. And it's really hard to predict just looking at the person.
Look, I'm not gonna say much right now because she's just explaining, but all of this falls on you. What you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, what are the material conditions you live in, and what are you willing to do within those material conditions to try and better the world?
How they're going to behave.
What are you willing to give up?
For my book, The Unthinkable, I followed people who had
What are you willing to gain?
survived really hellacious disasters of all kinds. And what you find is there's a pattern, even across very different contexts, from plane crashes to earthquakes. Almost always, people go through a period of denial, profound disbelief and delay. Then people go through a period of deliberation. People get really social.
Hi, Baptist Leo.
They do.
Good to see you. And definitely doing well. I hope that I can keep streaming tomorrow too, because there's so much shit happened that we need to talk about. And just stick to the topic for now, Simply Steve. We can talk about the IRA sometime if you want. You can join the Discord, send me some links, we'll do a research stream. But I need you all to understand that you are in a emergency situation. There is a natural disaster occurring. There is an earthquake, a volcano, a hurricane. Pay attention to what you need to do. What are you able to? What are you capable of doing? What are you afraid of? These are all questions you need to start asking yourself. Be aware of be in the world, exist in the space that you inhabit.
Something that researchers call milling, where they discuss with each other what's happening and what they should do next. And finally is the decisive moment, where people either take action or flee or cooperate in some way, or most often shut down and do nothing at all. Denial. Just the other day, I was walking through DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., and I heard a gun go off around 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a random Tuesday. It was very close. I could tell it was like a block away. I looked around, and nobody reacted. Everybody in that neighborhood
This
was
is
there aren't
really
a lot of
common, by the way.
shootings, kept walking as if it didn't happen. People were on their phones, they're talking to their friends, they're drinking their
This is what the vast majority of you, this concept that we're about to explore, are currently experiencing. If you are still remotely in denial of the coup, this is the feeling. Oopsie.
What? And then on their phones, they're talking to their... I looked around and nobody reacted. Everybody in that neighborhood where there aren't a lot of shootings kept walking as if it didn't happen. People were on their phones, they're talking to their friends, they're drinking their coffee, and I was like, what? And then I remembered that, of course, people don't expect this to happen here, so they're acting like it didn't happen. There's something called the normalcy bias, which you see in all kinds of disaster situations, where people tend to think whatever is happening is going to be fine. Our brains take whatever input we get and compare it to what we've experienced before. So every firefighter has a story like this, where they come into a bar or restaurant and there's smoke filling the ceiling, and the fire alarms are going off, and nobody's moving. Everybody's still, drinking their drinks and acting like it's not happening. This is very, very typical, especially...
By the way, genuinely, I would consider getting off of social media entirely. I know some of you guys watch me and you wouldn't be able to do that, but I mean, get a dumb phone and don't touch social media ever again is probably the best advice you'll ever get.
Especially for people who either have no training...
Simply, Steve, can you please stay on topic? You keep bringing up the IRA, and I said we can talk about it another time, but right now we're talking about psychology. I understand the media enforced curfew, required travel passes to walk down your own block so they could stop and search you for no reason. I don't want to talk about what is possible to happen to you right now. I just want to introduce the idea of the psychology of yourself internally when you are in an emergency situation. Again, if you weren't paying attention, you'll get killed if you don't pay attention.
Take whatever input we get and compare it to what we've experienced before. So every firefighter has a story like this, where they come into a bar or a restaurant and there's smoke.
What you're exactly exhibiting right now, in fact.
The ceiling, and the fire alarms are going off, and nobody's moving. Everybody's still, drinking their drinks and acting like it's not happening. This is very, very typical, especially for people who either have no training for emergencies, which is most of us, or who have never been in a life or death situation like that. Deliberation. One of the disasters I spent a long time studying was the evacuation of the World Trade Center on 9/11, partly because we have incredible research and survey data on the thousands of people who evacuated that day. And what you find is that, on average, people took about 6 minutes before they even began evacuating. People took the time to gather books they were reading, shut down their computers before they left. But
honestly, I would probably also shut my computer down before I leave.
To talk to each other. And we've all experienced this, right? I mean, you've probably been in a situation.
You want to be able to have had this foundation built before you're in a moment where you have to look around and decide who to trust and who's going to help you. This is key. You have to have this solid foundation in place, or you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You're not going to have a good time.
Where a smoke detector goes off, the first thing you do is you look around to see what everybody else is doing, right? That's a very natural reaction. But deliberation's really helpful in a lot of cases, because it's kind of like the wisdom of the crowd. If you have people around you who know things that you don't know, then you can make better decisions. It's a good survival response if the people around you know anything about how to get out of the building or what might be the actual threat. One of the things that people are often surprised by is how social disasters can be. Typically, people become
hardship
more
is
polite
the best period
than they are normally, which is the opposite of what we might expect.
We are in the optimal time zone, period of time in which we can create change right here.
Reasons the evacuation took so long is that people who were evacuating from the upper floors would let the people coming in below them go first. On average, the World Trade Center evacuation took about a minute per floor, which was twice as long as safety engineers had predicted, even though the buildings were only half full at the time. And part of that was because of delay and denial, but also because of deliberation. the decisive moment.
Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because you're likely to be faced with a moment like this in the future. Whether it's ICE at your door, whether it's dumbasses with guns on the street, whether if it's just someone breaking in to try and steal from you, you're probably going to experience a moment of your life being at risk, or a systemic issue of your life has now fallen apart. Like, things that were important to you were of an entirely different variety than what is required of you now. You need to be able to act.
This is where everything that's happened before in the denial and delay and deliberation phases comes home to roost. As an example, most serious plane crashes are actually survivable, which is surprising. But it turns out that most planes, if they crash, they end up on the ground and on fire. And the whole trick is to get out really fast. But that delay and deliberation phases can really slow you down. There was a famous plane crash in Tenerife, the Canary Islands, years ago. And what they found is that even though people could have gotten off the plane, they actually died there from smoke inhalation from the fire.
This
and
is
they were found
insane
just
to
many
me.
of them
I
sitting
don't
in their
understand this
seats.
shit.
So there was a lot of research done about why had this happened. And what you find is that humans, like most mammals, tend to shut down in really frightening situations for which they have no training or prior experience.
Like, I get
Researchers
that,
call
but
negative panic. People do nothing. They shut down, which is actually a good survival response in certain situations, but not on a plane crash. So that decisive moment is the culmination of everything that's come before. But there was one gentleman on that plane who, before the plane even took off, he looked around and noticed where the exits were, which is what people who study plane crashes always do. And he knew exactly how many rows away that the exits were. And he kind of had some kind of mental model for how to get out of that plane.
Will save your
So
life.
when the crash occurred, he grabbed his wife's hand, who was at that
This
point
is
kind
what
of
I need
frozen.
you to think about, right? Like, the rest of this video doesn't matter. How do you live your life? What is your circumstances? What are you willing to do to save your loved ones, to protect yourself? What are you willing to do to protect a stranger in your community? What are you able to do? What could you do better? Things are not normal anymore. The normalcy bias of there are no tanks outside, there are no planes dropping bombs on my street, does not mean you're not in the middle of a war and you are being attacked constantly. Whenever I hear this stuff, I'm baffled because I feel like I act on a much smaller stuff all the time, so it would be surprised to me if I behave that way. The thing is, you probably would behave in a similar way to this because all of these things happen in a very short period of time.
Paralyzed, and he said, "We're getting out of here." And they got off and they survived. But the people sitting around them did not. One of the tricky things about fear is that it's super helpful to you in small doses. But when you have too big of an injection of stress hormones like cortisol, you start to deteriorate. You lose eye-hand control, you lose your peripheral vision. It feels like time slows down. Your brain is trying to help you under extreme stress, but unless you've had some kind of really good, realistic...
Breaking news 14 seconds ago. The White House is preparing an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education. What do you need to prepare? Every bill that comes in is just like one line of it has been repealed. So I guess education department's gone. Sorry, guys.
Training, it tends to become counterproductive. Like, it's too much stress. So your eyes, your brain will fixate on the perceived threat, which may or may not be the full threat. It's a really tricky, slippery slope. Any kind of disaster you're in, fear is useful, but not too much.
Again, like, we have become basically
people who tend to
a fucking Saudi, UAE, Germany mixture of a country.
To do better in disasters are people who have had some training or some rehearsal beforehand. So in the case of the gentleman on the Tenerife flight, he had actually been in a house fire as a kid. So he knew how quickly smoke can fill a space, and that the real threat in most fires is smoke.
Thank
so
you
that
to the
experience
firefighters who did firefighter day when I was young, and we would have them come into my school and they would shut all the lights off and they would put little fog machines and drop some like gym mat barriers and stuff and have us learn to crawl out of the school in a simulated emergency situation, because that was awesome. And I know how to like, it's like that happened once when I was in elementary school, and I could probably remember every single thing I learned in that experience because it was fun, engaging, and interactive, and I could definitely not die in a fire now if I at least am not asleep and know that it's on fire.
Helped him push through the denial phase more quickly. So that's the decisive moment where your past experience, who you're with, right? How long you're stuck in denial, all of those things really shape what you do or don't do.
That's what I'm trying to drag you guys out of. The fire is happening. It is around you. Get up and pay attention.
Survival instincts don't serve us very well in the modern world. The good news is you can actually evolve on purpose through realistic training. So the better you understand your environment and the risks that you face, and the more prepared you are for some of the problems you might encounter, especially denial and delay, the better you can push through those phases and make an intelligent decision under stress. We are capable of incredible things, but we have to respect regular people enough to help them be agents of their own destiny. We have to trust them to do the right thing, but give them the information in advance. The biggest mistake I've seen in every disaster I've ever covered is that the people in charge do not trust the public. They think that the public is going to panic, to misbehave, to do stupid things. And so
in this situation, because I'm the streamer, I'm the one giving you, I'm in charge, and I don't think you're gonna panic. I need you to not panic. I need you to take a moment, understand that things have changed. We have seen a coup of the U.S. government. Again, like this is incomparable to anything in modern history. So things are changing, and the Nazis are here. Batgaz, my answer when it comes to family and friends, if someone attacks them physically, their lives are more important to me than my friends and family's lives are more important to me than theirs. So it's my life or theirs. I'm willing to decide to sacrifice my life to defend them. Now, imagine yourself actually doing it, because saying that you would is one thing, and envisioning actually doing that is an entirely different thing. Do not be a doomer, be a prepper here. And like, not like a doom prepper, but a community builder. Again, one of the best things you could do right now, especially if you have some privilege, like you're white or you're a white woman specifically even, is go and create a community garden around your town. Go knock on some doors and say, hey, food prices are really expensive. There's an empty lot over there. If you live in suburbia, easy peasy. I'm going to start a fundraiser because I want to run this community garden. You can make it like fascist woke, because, you know, like the fascists are all liberals anyway. They're liberals that are overly fascistic because, I don't know. My town has a community garden. Go join it. Go do that. Make friends. Especially you, Viasucks. If you are a trans person, your best defense is community. The more people that like you, that make friends with you, the safer you are. Hell, if you have the ability and you feel safe enough, go make friends with the cops. Because especially, like, I don't know what you look like. Sorry to say this, woke, don't come get me. This is dark woke time. If you're passable, if you're hot, go talk to the police. They will, for like that is your instant defense force forever. Be a nice member of the community, active in community engagement, be part of the garden, and like, honestly, I think it's a really funny term, by the way, dark woke. Like, I know it's cringe, but like, lean into it. We live in strange times. We might as well have some fucking whimsy.
Huge